What's up? Welcome to another episode of Hey Shooter, where we talk about your journey to the sun. I'm your host, Senati, and on this episode, I'm joined by Neo, Nda, and P. We'll be talking about what it's like living and working in a different country from the one that you were born or raised in. This is the Children of Diaspora. Hey, what's up? Welcome to Hey Shooter podcast, where we talk about your journey to the sun. I'm your host, Senati, and I'm joined by my brothers, Neo, Nda, and Pee-wee. How are you guys doing?
We good. How are you?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
How's the lockdown?
I think it's really a tricky time for everyone, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you're just trying to survive, trying to stay sane.
Right. Are you guys feeling like a little homesick, or like are you just fine? Like how's that side of things?
From my end, not really homesick.
Mm-hmm.
If I actually look at my history, I haven't really lived at home with my family for like 21 years. So, so I don't really get homesick because from a young age I was like in boarding school, then came here after that, and really haven't lived at home for a long time. So there's no homesickness per se.
So I know none of us are from South Africa. So yeah, I just wanted us to talk about that whole dynamic, how we're finding things, how we're, making sense of the world. Like for one, I'm from Lesotho, but I think I've been living in South Africa since 2005 when I was in high school. And yeah, since then it's been, I don't know, it's been interesting, like just figuring shit as I go. So I sort of moved to South Africa in 2005 when I started high school, boarding school. And it's always weird when people ask me, when did I move to South Africa? Because coming from Lesotho, you're always shopping in South Africa from when you're really young. Like we're always at Lady Brand, Bloemfontein. So it feels like South Africa has always been, it's always been like an extension of Lesotho. Or rather, Lesotho is like the back room, but it's fine. But yeah, I know, Neo, you have a similar coming to South Africa story.
So I moved to South Africa in 2004, starting off high school.
Yeah.
So what did we say? It was 16 years, 8 months, and 12 days. And I've been here ever since. Developing through like school, and then ultimately being I guess, professional. So yeah.
Nda?
Before I touch on when I moved to SA, I just have a quick question, especially for like Senate and Neo, who grew up in Lesotho, and because of the proximity of Lesotho to SA, I remember I was speaking to Bang Tabang about this, about when you guys were growing up, and the frequent shopping trips to either Lady Brand or Bloom, and you're telling me that like those trips were like the things that you guys looked forward to, and you'd put on your best.
Kidding me? Like, yo, this is, granted, like with very different economic climates, like there were things that we could only get access to through South Africa. So like, you knew well in advance that we were crossing the border. I'm talking shit at school. Like, yeah, we're dipping over the Bloom and for a light, something light.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, like when you're grade 5, 4, 3, like you were excited for it. You like get your dopest outfit together.
Facts, yeah. Fact, you're looking forward to, like, say there was so much of South Africa that we could see from a television, right?
Yeah.
And like the closest town is like 20 minutes away. But like it felt so far away that when you did eventually cross the border, you're like 6, 7. All you know is like KTV and like Yo TV. You're like, yeah, I'm going to pop into Kitty's or whatever. Pick up a little McDonald's kitty meal and skedaddle over. I'll see you niggas in the afternoon though. Keep it tight. So I'd say more than, like, based on how pronounced the border is and the process of crossing through and coming back, you knew you were entering into a different country. But I think from our relation to it, South Africa always served as like the city or like the big town more than another country. It only really started feeling like another country when we officially moved to like school.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that's super interesting. And I'm sorry to you know, change the topics. And to answer your question, I came to SA when it really wasn't fashionable to move from Zim to SA. It was like the early 90s. The Zim economy was booming. SA economy was doing nuts. So it really, yeah, it really was quite a tough decision for my parents to make. But yeah, I came here when I was around 2 or 3. I think I was two even. So that's how old I was when we moved from Zim to SA.
Yeah. Awesome. And you, Pee-wee?
I'm new here, man, compared to you guys. I just came here.
Yes.
I moved here in 2006 for varsity. Yes, that exposes my age, but it is what it is. And actually, before I go into that, your stories about you know, the trips to SA. Yeah, so we also had trips to SA, and it was now when it was fashionable to come here. Like, we waited for the economy to drop, not like that. Not like that. They went short. They went short on the economy. So we waited for the economy to drop. Then, so it was really bad at that time. Like, you couldn't get groceries or like basic commodities. So we used to come maybe once every 2 months, once every 3 months, once every 3 months or so, to get stuff like, you know, cooking oil, sugar, like the basics, because that was not there.
Yeah.
And obviously, the country being poor and stuff, I remember the whole family was like in a single cab, pickup truck, like in all 5 of us in the front of the cab, driving here, and we had to use that car so that we could like load up as much as we possibly can.
Hectic.
And yeah, so just drive up to Sina, and if you got a little extra money to spend, then you like make your way to Polokwane or something like that, you know, to the city. And and let me tell you, at that stage, it was shocking. Like, coming to this country was shocking. It was like a shock to the system, because I remember you can see the roads, you can see the atmosphere, the border, everything. Like the Zim side, they stamp your passport, and then you get into your car, you drive across the bridge. Then you come this side, you're like, the buildings are different. Like, what kind of bricks are they using here? Like, this is like, nice, you know. The tarmac is so smooth, and the roads are wide. Like, how are they doing this? Like, okay, we're in a different place. Like, the first thing you smell is that infamous scent of KFC in the air. Like, oh, that's different chicken. I don't know this chicken. I don't know.
That's the smell of a better economy right there.
Like, Messina is in December, January, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it would take you like hours, like 4, 5, 6 hours to cross, because there was just so much traffic. But those were the experiences I had of South Africa before actually moving here for school, which were for varsity, which was in 2006. And I've been here since, and became a resident, actually, a permanent resident recently.
So you did the whole 5-year thing?
Yeah, I did the whole 5-year thing, but it was so tricky, because I did my varsity, and then so you're supposed to work.
Yeah.
For 5 years, you're supposed to be on a work permit for 5 years without any breaks. So there's a loophole that they were screwing me over with, where you get a 1-year permit, because I was on a critical skills visa. so we'll give you a 1-year contract. Then I'm like, no, you should need to give me a longer contract so that they can give me a longer term permit. So it was like back and forth. So now they'll give me 1 year, and then I'll go to Home Affairs. Home Affairs will give me an extension for 1 year. And it was like back and forth 1 year. So I never got to do a continuous 5-year stint.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I was fortunate that I think it was in 2016, 2017, where the government decided that graduates from this country who have critical skills would get automatic permanent residency because they wanted to retain all those skills.
Mm.
So I actually never did the continuous 5-year. I always had like breaks in between.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that change to the legislation, that's why Gigabyte is my nigga, because that was all him. I don't care what you niggas say. That's my G. That's my G.
Yeah.
Like, amen.
Amen. So then I used that and then applied for a permanent residency, which was a very smooth process. I think at the end of his tenure in Home Affairs, Home Affairs was very efficient on the foreign side. I will tell you that, because it was really bad before.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of his tenure, it was actually very efficient. I think from getting a initial 5-year permit extension to getting my permanent residency, I think the whole thing took at most 6 months. And these are 2 different applications.
Yeah.
And with them using VFS as well, it was very efficient. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I became one of y'all. Now I carry that also important green barcoded ID book. My
Yeah, you have
goodness.
to carry the cross, baby.
You have no idea how good it is to have that thing.
Man.
Yeah, now I hear you. So for me, I inherited my citizenship because my father was born here, so he's a South African citizen. So even on my documents, it say that although I was born in Lesotho, I am South African.
Mm.
So yeah, and since I think either we've lived most of our lives in South Africa or most of the growing we've done in South Africa. Do you feel like South Africa is home? Does it feel like home now? Or do you still feel like, because there was a time that I would feel like, okay, I'm not from here, if you know what I mean. Like, do you get that feeling, or is it like, yo, I'm going to my house and it's home, and you know, my home country is also home? Is there like are you comfortable now?
I'd say to kind of echo like what Dutch also said earlier, was like the feeling of like no man's land in a way. Like I've spent most of my life in South Africa, and all of my formative years as an adult as in South Africa as well, right? So I think with that, like you constantly feel like you're not South African enough to be like at home this side.
Yeah.
And you've been away from home for so long that you don't really have that like genuine. So in a sense, home is just where my parents are now.
Yeah.
And in my mind, home is just where my favorite pillow is now. You know, like in a sense, like it's not like it's very tricky. It does feel like no man's landish in a way. Yeah,
I hear you.
I think for me personally, it wasn't until like my late teens where I had at least one first cousin who was also living in SA, who I could go visit or would come over to our house for family events or get-togethers. Up until that point, I didn't have any immediate first cousins in South Africa. So I was always envious of South African people who could say, you know, I'm taking a trip out to the hood this weekend to visit my cousins, to visit my grandfather and so forth. Unfortunately, that's something that I wasn't able to grow up with. For us, we'll see our cousins like that was like a once-a-year trip where you had to drive down to Zim, or other times either fly out to the UK or fly out to Canada or to the US to see your first cousin. So for like moving to SA, it was literally us as like my immediate family. That's the family I knew and grew up with. And when people talked about family, the only reference points I had was people who were far away. So I never really understood what it meant to have cousins who were your age, who you could be friends with, or who you'd go out with. Like, that was such a foreign concept to me. And because of that, sure, home, SA was home in terms of like my immediate family, but SA in the greater sense, I don't think it felt like home, because I'd always get that true home love whenever I went out to Zim and saw my actual cousins, and were able to have those big family get-togethers and big family events. And I never had that in it.
So P, would you consider yourself a patriot of Zim?
Yeah, I am. I was there for a long time.
Yeah.
But so the initial phase of my formative years was in Zim, like high school and stuff like that. But it was so different. The high school I went to, and just the culture and everything was very different. So when I came here, when I started varsity, I had to like start all over again.
Yeah.
So the me I am now was shaped by this country, which I'm actually very happy with, because it's a lot more progressive. It's I think I'm a better person because of my experiences at Rhodes, and the person I became, and subsequently, you know, the friends I managed to get, and you know, my experiences in this country. So in that respect, this does feel like home, because now I relate more to people in this country than the people at home, because there's been a disconnect with those people. But unlike my other two brothers here, language barrier is killing me. So at least they can actually get in there and speak, you know. For me, like, it's really bad. But I mean, I know a few words here and there, and then I know a few words here and there. You know, give me enough beers, and then I'll start, you know, start cussing you out in Sutu. So that's the only thing that makes me not feel at home, is because a lot of the times I can't communicate on that level. And there's certain situations where you can't actually bust out English. Funny story. When I was still living in the South, working in Soweto, so I used to take a taxi to work, taxi to work, taxi back. And then I spoke to the security guards in my complex. They just told me the signs. I didn't speak to anyone. I'll just, you know, say the usual words that you need to, like, the bare minimum. So just don't speak to anyone. Don't cause any problems with your English. And then this one time there was a problem with payments and change and something like that. And then now everyone in the taxi is engaging me now, like, yo, dude, you didn't pay. And then I can understand. I think I can understand like maybe 50% of Zulu. I think I can understand. I can make out what they're trying to say. I try to throw in my 1-2 words here to respond, but then the situation gets deep. Now it needs more than 2 words. So, and the taxi driver, Zulu guy, is getting upset as well. Like, he's like driving and looking back, and it's like, no, what's going on? Like, we didn't pay. And now I'm trying to explain that I did pay and everything. So now the English just boom comes out, defensive mode. English comes out. This nigga was like, why are you speaking in English? Like, they stopped the taxi. It was on a highway. Stopped the taxi and kicked me out. Then I had to walk home. Yeah, which was like, I think it was like 5K. I walked 5Ks home because you can't get, it's on the highway. You can't stop a taxi on the highway.
Exactly, yeah.
So I was just like, all right, cool. Let me just hit this. Got home, I think around 8 p.m. because it was like after work.
Bro, you break out English in a taxi. They're like, okay, professor.
It's like, I dip.
Yes, this is your stuff.
First of all, you didn't pay, which I had. Secondly, now you come with this English. Like I get out. So I tried in certain situations, I've come to read the areas and situations where I shouldn't use English.
Mm-hmm.
So I try not to speak much. Luckily, most of the times now when I'm out and about, I am with these idiots here. So they will speak on my behalf. I'll just look like a baby, like, I want that one.
Yeah.
So which one? I want that one. And then they're speaking for me, like, yeah. So give this nigga this 1, 2, 3. He wants this, like, extra cheese, okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's how it is. That's how I survive.
Yeah.
I should probably learn at some point.
Yeah, I think you should for your own good.
Mhm.
And it reminds me of something. I've noticed that you guys are you're really quiet in like your successes. Like you are all doing amazingly well in your professions, but you're not loud. And what I mean is, for instance, someone
that's hearsay.
Eh?
That's hearsay. I don't know anything you're talking about. Like, what? Success?
No, like niggas make that work.
I am not going to downplay that. So like what I mean is, someone will buy a nice car and they will post everywhere. They will throw a party, you know, all of that. But you guys, you don't do that. And I was wondering, is it because, is it like your personality, or is there like that little thing that's like, you know what? I don't really belong here and I don't want to be causing any trouble. Came here to do what I came to do. I came to work. I came to, you know, provide for my family. And that's what I'm going to do. All this, you know, hoo-ha, I'm not about it. So is that the case with you guys, or? I've
got 4 words for you. South African Revenue Services.
Okay.
Nah. Miss me.
First,
thank you.
Also, well, to answer your question, one, I wouldn't necessarily say it's being like quiet or low key about successes in a sense. I'd say, well, let me speak for myself. Is
yeah.
When I moved out here, you know, you start school a little early. I think I was like a year earlier than everyone else, so like 12. And being set away from your family at such a young age, had to get like parented by rules, like very specific rules about how to carry yourself, right? And a very important rule is you're not from there. So just go in there, do what you're supposed to do, and the fuck out, you know? Like don't get too fancy with the handles. Like just do what you're there to do, shut the fuck up, and that's it, you know? And I think with that, and naturally, because like the pressure of making such a big sacrifice worthwhile, because, you know, being set away from your family and the financial sacrifice they make to essentially bet on your education, you know, they have to like really make it clear that we're not going to be there to parent you every day. So we need you to buy into this vision so that we don't like let it parent you, you know? And you hold yourself to a high standard in that regard, and you just want to like, you know, get the W, get the fuck out. And as you get older, it kind of like feels that way as well, or that's like the base at which you approach every single effort is, again, make this sacrifice worthwhile. You're away from your family. You're only here because it's a relatively better economic platform to apply yourself, you know? So don't cause any trouble. Don't say anything. Don't do anything. Just sit down, work, and go home, you know? So because of that, like there's no time to be propped up on someone's shoulders, cutting off the lining of the hoop and walking around with a trophy. You get your W's, you go home, you take your L's, you take your black ass home. You don't, you know? So I think also to like maybe answer like a bit of like an older question of, let me say like, yeah, I'd say that's the ethos that we approach every single W and every L. So we're just, you're not low key, you're just doing what you're here to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you, Nda, what's your excuse?
I would say is that it's a very interesting question. For me, as a result of my observation, I've seen that South Africans in general, they have a different relationship to social media compared to sort of people from other African countries. I guess, firstly, if you just look at the general smartphone penetration in Africa, SA probably leads that miles ahead compared to other African countries. And because of that, you have more South Africans on social media, which is a good thing. But then it can also get dark very quickly. That means if you sort of put yourself out there, you sort of become a social media public figure because of the things that you're doing in society or the things that you're doing with work or whatnot. Sure, it's a platform for you to be celebrated, but it's also a platform for you to be brought down and attacked and those sort of things. And, a prime example of that is someone like Vusi Tembegwayo. I'm sure he might be a great guy in his personal capacity, but I guess he's developed a brand of some sort on social media. And when you position yourself as like a branded person on social media, you expose yourself to people bringing you down and attacking you for whatever reason. You have to do that. And the problem with that is that sometimes, being like a Vusi, you might not have done anything wrong, but because of the optics of a situation, the way how things look, people will still bring you down for that. And that's not something that I want for my life. And because of that, I made very conscious decisions early on to not sort of become that social media branded person. I mean, I deleted Twitter and almost a tweeter. I deleted.
Yeah, you're definitely you're definitely from Zim. Yeah.
Bro. Trying to get dark, and I was like, nah, like I don't want a part to do with that. So because of that, like that's shaped how I approach, what I share, what I post, and so.
Yeah. No, that's really dope. P, would you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so they've pretty much covered all the points when it comes to that, but because I think that's part of the reason as well we get along so much, because we basically cut from the same cloth and the way we move is similar. But the thing is, there's also a sense of amongst us as a group is the successes and the losses don't need external validation. They don't need external validation. We share those with the actual people who matter, the people who know what went into it, how much went into it, and who know the L's that you took on the way to that. And it's kept within that space.
Yeah.
And also, it wouldn't feel right for us to share victories on social media without sharing the losses as well, because there's so many people doing that, and then they're making people think it's easy to be successful, or this is the standard way of life. People are sharing only 1% of their lives on social media, and then people are now thinking that, okay, this is what it is, this is what I should expect, and then you have a warped sense of reality. So it also wouldn't be fair to the people that follow you. Not that I have a big following. All 25 of my followers really wouldn't care what I put up. But it's not. You don't need that external validation. And it wouldn't be a true representation of those things. So you end up finding a lane that you want your social media account to run, and then you just stick with that, and then so it's all banter on Instagram. Is about banter right now.
I hear you. I was thinking about it the other day, okay, because now it's Corona, and actually Nell was talking about this earlier on, that our experiences are different from, say, South Africans, because now you are considering, okay, if I change jobs, or if anything happens. Like there's so many things to think about because we are from a different country, like our experiences are different. So I was thinking if I were to move home, I don't know how I'd feel about that. I don't think I would want to move home, because when I left home, I was like, the marathon continues. I love Lesotho with all of my heart, but I don't think I am ready to move back home. Mostly because every time, like for instance, every time I go home for like holidays, I make sure that I have some money. If I don't have money, I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home empty-handed. So I still have that mentality that if I were to ever move home, I should move back home with, I don't know, something, a skill or something to help build the country. I can't just go home and sit down, you know, because I'm doing way more here. So like, what's you guys' view on, do you think you'd ever move home? Was it something you've thought about? If it were to happen, like how would you work around that?
Oh, that's difficult. And I'd say an entire conversation in itself. But I think I have like two minds about it, or two parallel opinions about it. That for one, being a realist in the most conducive environment to be as productive as possible, you know, where based on the very specific things that we studied, for example, I am most likely to be more productive here than I can be at the, like, through the economy at home. You know, that's a fact, you know. And right now, it's one of those, like, right now, it wouldn't make sense, because I'd kind of be like not in an environment that maximizes the potential, but also in another breath is knowing that there's a certain talent or experience or even tools that are developed in another country by like people from Lesotho that could be incredible for Lesotho. You know? Like it would be amazing to have a bunch of like young, very energetic, educated Black people. You know, as if there's any other. But like there is that need, you know, for like fresh talent, homegrown, like citizens who have like an emotional conviction to like turning it around, but at the same time, not now. So it's that difficult, like knowing that I would, like, theoretically, I would love to go home at some point, whether it's when I do have enough financial muscle or enough like levity to do something back at home, or even if like the right opportunity shows up, like I'll never dismiss the possibility or like reality of going home. But based on the realities that we've experienced in our development and how things are looking right now, that's exactly why our parents sent us here so young, because the odds of being all right were better here than where we come from, you know. So for that reason, it's yes and no. Yeah. Well, for me.
I ain't trying to go back. I'm not even.
Thanks.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah, I'm not trying to.
That's on period.
That's on God. Period.
You know, like funny is that like there's a rolling joke back at home about say Basotho that are not from Lesotho, especially like Basotho who say stay in Joburg, and I guess the comforts that they got used to in another country, that is very different from the reality that they left back at home, right? That most of them go back and outwardly say these things, you know, like you go back to a country where you were born and raised, and like, yo, I can't live like this. Like, this isn't what I'm used to now. You know, like I like say Joburg or Sandton in itself is, say, a first world country in inverted commas. So some people would like live in this environment and be this environment where they become so far into home that even the idea of going home is like, the fuck am I going to do there, you know? And I've never wanted to like be that disconnected from home where, yeah, like personally, I've never wanted to like lose that connection like that, where home is a place that I somehow look down on because I came up in a better place. So like home is always going to be home, man. Even if there isn't that emotional connection of homesickness, that part, but like home and wanting to be there, and if I can contribute to making it something, I'd be more than happy to.
Like for me, when I think of home, most of the times I think it's my family, it's our family home. So in a weird way, I see that even say the guys that I'm into, they have like similar, they're not necessarily from Lesotho, ne? But they have certain things that remind me of, say, my dad.
Where are they from? Where are they from?
Hey, man, I'm trying to learn languages out here. But my point is, I want to know about you guys.
It's nigga crossed the border and went for like exotic shit that's familiar.
I mean, what are you doing?
Do you guys find yourselves like into, okay, whether it's like friendship or relationship wise, do you find yourselves drawn to people that remind you of something from like back at home, or do you just gel with
I mean, like, it's always love to like meet someone from back at home. Like that familiarity will never go away, you know. Like meeting a countryman is like, you know, for a second, like say me and you, say Sesotho is like a national language here, but it's not the same as like our home Sotho, you know? That just like, sure, you're like just gravitate towards like people from home, just they give you that familiarity in a sense. But I wouldn't say you romanticize it so much after the years that we've been around or away from home. Personally, I just like gravitated towards like friends who were just like-minded, and friends that have over the years like developed into family. Like we're so similar, we have the same values, and we met so far away, and we're all from not at home, you know. That we kind of forged like a family around ourselves. And geez, we're like an assortment of like nationalities, and like, so I wouldn't necessarily say that like I shoot to like close friendships from home. Like we're homies because, you know, we're alike in a lot of ways, not because we're from the same country. So I think that stopped being a thing like years ago, like over a decade ago.
P? Since you just got here yesterday.
I'm not really looking for something that reminds me of home. I might actually be looking for the opposite of that. I need to ask myself. I need to ask myself these questions.
Like, why would I want something that constantly reminds me of something I'm away from? You know, like,
so
like that's going to hurt me every day.
It's going to hurt me every day. Or if the reasons I left home is because I don't like home. Plus, gentlemen that hail from Zimbabwe, very adventurous when it comes to taste, in terms of friendships and relationship. So who knows? You know, you could go totally left field. You know, it is what it is. You know, it's not really based on that. Maybe it's something that you totally cannot relate to sometimes, because you can learn a different perspective. It can change you in a positive way. You'll be more inclusive of more people, like a different set of people and values and things like that. So it's not based on that.
Do you think our parents understand that this is a whole new culture? Like, do you think they understand that we are writing the rules of, you know, being children of diaspora? Like no one else lived like this.
I don't, to a degree, like, I think they understand that to a bit, but I think for them, they will always view life according to that same lens that they sort of were raised up. I know, because I mean, for instance, look at the time that we're living in now, where somebody can go and start an IG page, and if they play their cards right, you can end the month off with, let's say, 10,000 to 15,000 followers, which represents some sort of economic value. You can become an influencer. You can actually make value through that. Now, imagine if you're a parent, you raised your child in either Zimbabwe or Lesotho, and you send them over to SA to start university. You obviously are sending them through to this country with the blueprint in mind of, okay, go get a good education, get your degree, get a good solid job, and do the things. But the real reality is that we're living in a time now where not only are you, sort of growing up around other people from different countries, but because of like technology, there's alternative career paths that you can take. And a lot of parents send their kids to countries like SA because of the institutions of education and like the job opportunities. But none of these parents are thinking about like opportunities related to like these alternative careers that are only possible because of technology. And when a kid from another country starts to exploit those things and starts to do really well at those things, the parent can never really understand that. Even if their success is really, really dope and blatant in your face, even if as a child in the diaspora, you can show your parents, hey, listen, I've got 20K followers, I'm getting 5K a post, a sponsored post.
Yeah.
Your parents will say, no, but look at Mang's child who's a doctor.
And
facts. Like to our parents, you're just lost in the sauce. They're like,
we're lost.
They're like, yo, our son got lost in the juice, bro. Like, we sent him to be an engineer. He came back with followers. Like, bro. But I don't even think it's from them being or coming from a different country or living in a different country. I think it's just like a completely different generation in general, like that so much that is possible for us wasn't even like a factor that they could consider, and even in all four of us, in our instances, the reasons why we were sent here are very different to the reality that we exist in, and that dynamic part of just like life going on and professions developing and our experiences as grown-ups just being so different from our parents. The one thing that I would say they maintained was the underlying goal of going to fetch a W doesn't change. Like, sure, you're the one that's there. You get to make a lot of decisions based on like the scrimmage that you're seeing in front of you. And God bless, Dutch is doing shit that if he told his dad he wanted to do when he was in grade 11, your dad would have fallen off his chair. But like, like they trust that, like, okay, cool, this is a different reality. I can't really tell them much about what to do and what not to do. But I trust them to maintain the one rule that you're not there for anything other than to fetch a W.
Yeah.
So for as long as that remains like the star that we follow, I think, at least for my parents, like they became a lot cooler about the very different environment that I was existing in relative to what they were sending me to. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
I just have a random question, especially for, let's say, people who came from outside of SA to SA, but purely for the purpose of university to start off with. Why is it that like parents who send students to SA for university, why do they always pay the school fees directly into the students, into like the kid's account, and then trust the kid like to pay the school fees? Like, because
they do that?
Yes, bro. There were so many horror stories I heard of students who parents, like the parents pay the school fees directly into the students' accounts, and then told the students
to
school
go
fees
pay.
themselves. But then obviously the kid would run through the cash. And it always used to, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Why don't the parents pay the school fees directly into the university's accounts? I don't know if you guys have ever heard those horror stories as well, or if you know anybody who that happened to, where they ran through the fees money.
Also remembering that if you're an international student, you have to pay everything up front. So I don't think I'd trust my child with like that much money and be like, okay,
Right.
now I'd rather do it myself.
No,
Listen.
that first of all, it's the full tuition plus the international student levy. just like like the whole joint. But Dutch, I wouldn't say I know anyone who was trusted like that. But just off the top of my head, I know this through like a bank that exists in Lesotho and in South Africa, right? That to make a payment or a deposit from a Lesotho bank account into a South African bank account, I think they would sometimes like charge you a fee.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're dropping $100, in order for it to get to the other side as $100, you'd have to pay 100 and some change. You know, so to me, I would imagine that the only reason why a parent would put money in a child's pocket to go like do that themselves is if it made no administrative sense for them to do it themselves, particularly because they're so away, like far away. Like the infrastructures that we have, even from a banking like perspective, are so different that you niggas know that like a South African bank will very quickly say, nah, we don't make payments out to a Zim local account.
Yeah.
You know, and if you do want us to do that, it's going to cost you a bit more. So
Yeah.
I'd imagine that would, in my mind, or at least the only reason why I'd trust a 19-year-old with tuition is that. But that's just me.
Yeah, no, that's too much. That's too much money to put into a kid's account.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
the Hennessy will be flowing, bro.
First of all, if you're around a school campus anyway, and you see a 19-year-old drinking Hennessy, you should report them to the to the dean's office like very quickly. Yeah. You're not supposed to be there yet.
Yeah. So with all the lessons that you've learned as you go, what are some of the lessons you'd want to share with your kids one day? Because I mean, I believe they are they're not going to have the same lifestyle as us, but you know, it's going to be different. So what are the things that you've learned on your way and you're like, you know what, I wish my parents had told me this, in as much as they probably weren't prepared for all of this? But is there any lessons?
Well, that's a heavy one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say one. Just one thing, right? Find very good friends, hold them close, and you niggas will figure it out.
Yeah.
You figure it out. Yeah. I think most of the lessons that you get along the way are not really what you tell your children or something like that. It's more seeing, and God bless them, but it's more about seeing deficiencies in the parenting that you went through. Like, okay, I'm at this point, or I'm unable to do this or that because this is what I was exposed to. So those are the things you learn. Like, okay, I think I would do it differently this way, expose children to this, maybe let them feel free instead of an authoritarian like kind of parenting. They should feel free so that they can speak to you and say, yo, these are the problems I'm having, or I'm thinking of doing this, and then you can actually have a back and forth and give constructive advice instead of being punitive and like rules and stuff like that. Rules will be broken. Actually, they'll break them with gusto, like, yes, it's a rule and I'm breaking it. So
Yeah.
so that's what you learn, yeah, so you learn, okay, you need to be more accommodating of progression, always keep an open mind and have an open door policy. Like, you can always come and talk to me, or what you're trying to do, like, don't be too judgmental, because then you will have things hidden from you, and then mistakes might happen where you could have given advice because you've gone through the same thing. Because these people pretending like they weren't our age, bro. Like they were doing the wildest shit,
They just
and now all of a sudden, like, yo, you can't be doing that. It's like, but you did it.
Hey.
You did it.
Yeah.
Tell me how you messed up in a nice way, so that I know I shouldn't do this. I was like, no, don't do this, because when I did it, these are the problems I went through. Like, no, you're not supposed to do that. Not that kind of stuff. So you don't know what lessons you will be teaching in 20, 30 years time, 40 time, because times have changed. Look at 20 years ago. Yeah. 20 years ago, things were so different. So you don't know. So it's all about what you learn on how to conduct yourself when you're in that scenario, is how I feel about this.
Yeah. And on that, I think one thing for me, before moving to South Africa, I wish my parents told me about the climate here in terms of like racism and all of that. Because when I got here in grade 8, it was just a whole different world for me, and I was never prepared that, oh, okay, you know what, such and such things might happen. Or if it's like even xenophobic attacks, like all of that. I think it's important to also teach children that, okay, you're about to walk into a world that thinks this way. So just be ready if somebody tries to attack you, or if, just be careful what you say so you don't, you know what I mean? So I think that's one thing for me, to be like, okay, before moving somewhere, do some research and try in as much as I can to educate the kids that, what, this is what you're walking into, be careful, do your best, but just know this is what's going on there.
Yeah, those are facts. I remember before I came here, the discussion, like, my dad sat me down and I was like, here comes the talk. Here comes the talk.
Yeah.
And so just like this is speaking to your point now, because maybe they were not aware as well of those things. So it's good to say, do your research first. So I think he was basing this talk on what he knew about South Africa. And there's a story, an old story that we have, like, when we came here in the like mid 90s, when I was very, very young, and then they got mugged at Carlton Center with my uncle, aunt, my mom, like at knife point, Carlton Center there.
Yeah.
So when he was sitting me down, it's like, all right, so you about to go, you're about to go in, all I'm gonna tell you is don't get stabbed, my nigga. Like that. That's it. That's all I got for you. Stabbed. All right, cool. Cool. Don't get stabbed. All right, cool. So,
did you get stabbed? Have you been stabbed?
Not yet, luckily. Not without trying, but yeah, not yet.
Yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. Does you have anything to share?
Yeah, I would say specifically with the essay, using essay as an example. First, I'll just echo what Neo said about the support structure in your support group, and your friends. You need friends who are like-minded and who all genuinely have the same sort of purpose and goal in life. I think the tricky thing with essay, especially moving from somewhere else into essay, is that there's a lot of pressures in essay to do certain things to fit in. Either it could be a certain perceived lifestyle, it could be hanging out with certain people. So for instance, like let me use like the North culture as an example. A lot of people from outside of SA, you'll even find that it even affects people from outside of, who are from SA but outside of Joburg.
Yeah.
So people move from other parts of SA to Joburg, which can be considered like a foreigner moving into a foreign place to some degree. For example, something like North culture, things like that are extremely dangerous to your like personal development. Those subscribing to subcultures like that can really derail you from your purpose and your mission, all for the purpose of trying to be cool. So I think if you can find yourself a solid friendship group that can keep you away from those sort of pressures and that encourages you to go for your wildest dreams and your wildest goals and to be your truly authentic self, I think that would be the best advice I could give. Find your group of people who bring out the best of you.
Awesome.
To be honest, like there's so many dynamic things that like you wouldn't necessarily be able to advise through, you know. Like like the challenges are so different and they mature over time and they based on your reality of where you are, you know. Like that said, man, I think that's what we have in our group. It's not only a support system like from like friends that keep you grounded to who you are, you know, but at the same time it's like a team of trusted problem solvers where we lean on each other, you know, because it becomes super inefficient and quite annoying very quickly to call home over every single issue that you have. That shit gets tired in boarding school. Like when I was using my phone card, you know, like I had a Madagascar phone card, 20 rand phone card, and my pops was like, don't call me for shit other than real life, you know, because that would mean hopping in the phone card. Yeah, because fact. You know,
I'm dead.
So because of that, like family was so far away that I couldn't really call them for anything and everything because they can't just come and help me, you know. So you first like start to become your own problem solver in a sense, but when you're in a community of like-minded people who we help each other solve things, you know, that we kind of become each other's parents in a sense, or each other's like family, you know. So it becomes a cool like friendship circle / family in a sense that honestly ends up being a million times more supportive than so
it's true because it's like transparency and
exactly.
So to like avoid like being any like boom, so I'm the foreigner that figured out how to exist in Joburg and this is the cheat sheet. I'd much rather say the most productive thing is find niggas that are just like you, or find like people that believe in stuff like you and you're genuine friends with, and there's no Rubik's Cube too difficult for you guys then. You know? So
that's amazing.
That's what we were fortunate to find.
Yeah, very, very fortunate. And there's an added dynamic as well, because we're just speaking here about people who can push you to be a better you, but there's the group of people I have around me know how to do that perfectly. But on the other end, they also know when to tell you to let loose as well, which is very important. They also tell you like, nah, you're being uptight. Let's go chill outside. Like, what? Relax. Like
you're wilding. Shake this off.
You're wilding. And I, especially now during the lockdown, you realize how important that was, that reset at the end of every week, that regroup, reset, and then it makes you start the week a lot better, you know, fresher. Your mind is clear, and it drives you because you've got an end result that you can look forward to at the end of the week as well. Like, okay, no, these are the things, or I want to do this so much better. You know, it sounds petty and it sounds small, but it's actually a huge driving factor. Where you're at work, you're doing something, you're like, oh my God, I need to do this so well because I want to go and share this with my friends this weekend. it
Yeah.
actually drives you to say, okay, I'm going to do well so that I can share this stuff with them. And then you could be having a bad week. It's like, okay, the week can just end so that I can share the bad week, and then they can pick me up again. You know, we can start the week fresh and continue how we're doing. So
Yeah.
I had no idea friends were this important. I had no idea in my whole life. I had no idea. But I guess you just have to get into the right situation to know the value of good friendships.
Yeah. Thanks, South Africa. Hey, I mean, it's
Yeah,
not South
thank
Africa
you.
gave you.
I mean, amongst other things, but yeah, thank
Yeah.
Thank the nation.
Yeah, thank the nation.
Yeah. I think
It's a
that's about
whirlwind,
it,
man.
guys. And yeah, thank you so much. It's always interesting having conversations with all of you individually as a group. You guys are amazing, and I'll keep saying that. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
Not as amazing as whoever did your lighting, because damn, I really need some of that shit. Like,
Like we said, it's what is it, like the east facing
room.
East facing room.
These are things you have to
So-
look into when you move into places. You're like, how is the light when the sun rises?
It's all about the journey. It's all about the journey, baby. Ain't nothing changed but the weather.